strategies, which they want to acquire on the basis of anti-American rhetoric. So they mobilize the support on the anti-American issue, and they use the support for something else. This is the credit of support. Again, one important thing is that Russian corporations themselves, they're very big and they're multinational. Russia acquired its own multinational corporations. Whether it's Gazprom, whether it's Lukoil, whether it's Transneft, whether it's even whether it's RAO, yes, Россия Energy, electricity company. All these companies, they go abroad, they have a lot of money, they don't invest at home, they don't invest into Russian industries or infrastructure. That's why they have all this money idle, which they use to take over companies, including in Canada, including the United States, and including in Western Europe. That makes them behaving extremely aggressively, because it doesn't mean they have more money than their Western competitors, but they have this free money. It's money which is not committed to any long-term projects, and they want to invest it as soon as possible, because otherwise the money will lose value. So it turns them into very, very aggressive players. So that generates conflicts, not only with the Americans, but also with Western Europeans. And in that sense, ironically, anti-Americanism is, in Russian side, is both good news and bad news. Good news is that it sometimes legitimizes the left, including some of the left-wing intellectuals being allowed to talk to the official media. They're not on the list of those who are banned from the media. Because, okay, we can say some smart things about how bad the Bush administration is. They will need us for that purpose. But also it's bad news because very often it is used by nationalists, by some anti-Semitic propaganda, by the far right, because the far right is no less anti-American than we are. Actually, it's more anti-American in a way. So that is the problem.
A few more questions. Yeah. Point of the stage of the evolution of this new linkage, the party you were mentioning, reforming, or the grouping reforming with the trade union movement right now. What is the level of organization, and where the discussions are right now in terms of program? So we'll close the speakers list. This is a lot of things for Boris to answer already. We just failed to ask him how the universe was created, but we'll ask that later.
The third set.
Yes.
Well, speaking about the ambush, where is the ambush? Where is the trap? There are plenty of them, actually. Because, you see, what I have to do in a rather short discussion is to address an audience which basically has the mainstream press as the source of information, like it or not, and which has some, supposedly has some wrong views or wrong ideas of Russia which have to be corrected, have to be corrected. So in that sense, I'm just concentrating on showing how wrong certain assumptions are which you get from the mainstream media, you see. That doesn't mean that, first of all, doesn't mean that everything you get from the mainstream media is always 100% wrong. Certain aspects, unfortunately, are right. But being more specific, starting with the labor movement. The labor movement is not unchallenged. On the contrary, it's extremely challenged both by the state and the bosses. Well, speaking about the bosses, it's more or less clear. Because bosses don't like when their workers go on strike. And they don't like when their workers ask for higher wages. It's also clear. But there are also some very specific behavior aspects. Because, for example, Russian business environment is very tough. So for a boss to accept the demands of the workers is to lose his reputation with other bosses, with other capitalists. So it's not only that he doesn't want to lose money on paying higher wages, which is something he really doesn't care about. he really cares about his reputation, if he submits to the pressure of the workers, his reputation as a tough guy is ruined. And he'll have problems with other capitalists. And very often, they spend by far more on fighting the strike than they could spend on actually paying the wage increases which workers demand. Not only that it's more money, but it's 5, 10 times more money, just in order to show that they are strong. Like I just give you 2 examples. Mikhailov Cement, a factory which is producing concrete, their profits increased 3 times. Wages didn't increase. Workers went on strike. They were actually demanding 30% increase, which looked like very high, but first of all, their wages were misery wages. And second, profits increased by 300%. So what happened? And the workers also, sorry, to make it clear, the workers also made it very clear from the very beginning that they were actually going to be quite happy with 15% increase after a negotiation. But that was just an attempt to have higher demand than to kind of bargain and compromise and so on. What the owners did, first of all, they just closed down the factory, which was making huge profits. They just closed it down to break the strike. And they lost a lot of money, as you can imagine. By far more money than they could save on or spend on increasing wages. And then, to prevent similar strikes happening at other factories, they gave them exactly this 15% increase all over the place, but just not to the factory, which actually went on strike. So that gives you the idea of the environment in which the Russian labor movement operates. Another example was, it's going on recently in bauxite mining. 2 mines went on strike, actually. 2 pits went on strike. After that, the company started a lockout in 5 pits. So just workers who happened to be near were locked out just because potentially there was a possibility of them also going on strike. So that was just enough to start a lockout. You see? So in that sense, it's a very tough environment. With foreign corporations, it's a little bit better. A little bit, but just a little. Then again, Russian labor law, it gives you 2 categories of trade unions. One is the official trade unions, which belong to the state, which are under United Russia Party, and which are used as strike breakers when anything happens. They actually organize strike breaking activities. And they're called majority unions. And they are the ones which have to be recognized by the owners, so they have the right of collective bargaining. And when the owner wants to speak to the unions, he selects the union he wants to speak to. And there are so-called minority unions, which are new unions or free trade unions, which have to fight for recognition, just for the right to be involved in collective bargaining process, for example. They have to fight just for that. Not for the contract, but just for the right to be recognized as a partner in collective bargaining process. According to the law, the owners are free to ignore them, to pretend that they don't exist. Because they don't exist legally, even when they're registered officially with the state, they don't exist legally at the enterprise level, their leaders and members can be fired. Because there is a law about protecting trade union activists. But it is only for the official unions which do not go on strike and which are not trade union activists in reality.